Okay, welcome to the Modern Farmer Podcast. I'm your co-host, Farmer Amir.
I'm your co-host, Winemaker Gaurav.
And we got a guest here, Bill Backan, no slacking, from Hartville, Ohio. And it is episode 27. So welcome, Bill.
Let's do this.
How you doing?
Hey, good. Thank you for having me along there. I've been listening to your product. You guys are doing well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we're really excited to have you here. We touched on a few topics earlier, pre-interview, in regards to what we want to touch on. And did you want to start with laddering into maybe family dynamics and really getting there as kind of something that's just essential day-to-day lifestyle?
Yeah, I'm really curious. You have 3 kids on the farm, 2 daughters and 1 son. So how do they work on the farm? I know your wife, Michelle. She works in the kitchen a lot of the time. I know Brianne helps out with making fudge and things like that. So that's what I saw online. But I'm interested in knowing how your family gets along and how the overlap works, because us being a agritourism business going into kind of our second generation of agritourism, there's some challenges and a lot of opportunities. So we're curious to know how you've dealt with those challenges and opportunities. So.
Well, first of all, I like to preface by saying the entire farm's a family effort here, multi-generational, and I'm just filling in a piece of the puzzle here. My one daughter, Kara, who's come back primarily full-time. She's our eldest now. She'll be 27. She works in the kitchen mostly, and if you look at Maize Valley's social media stuff, anything with food, generally, she's the one kind of pushing the boundaries on that. My other daughter, Brianne, is actually finishing up grad school right now and doesn't work too much at the farm anymore, and was just actually offered a couple pretty good lucrative jobs here.
Wow.
Making about as much money as I am right out of college. So we'll see where that goes. My son Brett is a developmentally delayed individual who does a lot of work around the farm here. He mows the grass, and we're also working at integrating him into the community and doing things, but he's actually very high functioning and very flat out a good worker around here. And so my wife Michelle, actually, she's really runs the place. I just kind of come in and goof off and fix stuff that breaks. But she's the one in charge of more like the administrative side of this. Of course, I have input, and then we have my mother-in-law is still involved at 80, going to be 84 years old. My father-in-law at 84 is on the farm, works most of the production stuff, although reducing every year. My brother-in-law Todd's the winemaker. We kind of stay in our lanes, I guess, when it comes to working the we don't micromanage each other, let's put it that way. If Todd has a winemaking decision or something to do, that's his call. I mean, his job, his responsibility at the end of the day is that we have a quality product that's cost effective. I'm in charge of kind of like the marketing and the agritourism stuff, more or less, the day-to-day operations. But like when we made a switch with our corn maize provider, anytime or Todd needs to make a major purchase of a big tank, that's in the several $1,000s, then we all sit down and kind of come together and discuss things. We have weekly meetings where we review last week's sales performance relative to the year prior, and back 3 weeks. We do that every Monday. We try to, for the most part, and then annually we take almost 6 to 8 weeks and review all the different enterprises and look at last year's goal set. And see how we did on those, and what are some things we want to do for next year, and what the budgets are. And so it's a little bit of art, a little bit of business. None of us have business backgrounds. My wife was a dairy science major because we used to have a dairy farm, so she wishes oftentimes that we had better business things. A lot of stuff I do, I just pay attention to physics. I mean, physics applies to everything. Everybody thinks that physics is just something for the Big Bang Theory. No, it applies to social concepts, it applies to economic concepts, it applies everywhere. If the physics aren't there, it ain't gonna work.
So you're like a mad scientist.
Yeah, mad. That's probably a good word. I'm not. The scientist might be a little bit. You might be stretching the boundaries of that term.
No, okay. So, I really appreciate how you guys all have figured out how to stay in your own lanes. Was that something that you guys planned from the beginning? Was it something that kind of just happened, or like how did that come to play? Where Brett and Kara and Brianne are able to kind of do their own thing, like especially your kids?
Well, I think it's still evolving yet, and actually we are working on more of a succession plan or estate plan or business plan here. We're actually looking at ways to bring outside family members into the business because we can't do all this. And a lot of what we've been able to build in the past 10 years has been squarely because of great staff. Yeah, we've been there and we took the risk. The difference was back in the day when this was going in the wintertime, I was driving truck in the wintertime to make ends meet. And because you just kind of learn that stuff growing up on the farm. I first drove truck when I was 16.
Wow.
Before you needed licenses and stuff like that. You just got in there and did it. But we also guaranteed the operating loan with our house, so it was personal. As it evolved, you got to sit back, anybody in any family business. And that's where the art comes in. And you have to decide, what's the goal here? What's really, really important? That you're right personally, or it's right for the business. So when you're able to sit back, take a breath, trust other people that you're working with, your family, and don't get down in the weeds with everything and feel you have to be a control freak, and just have some trust and let it fly, let it ride. And then you got time. If it doesn't work out, you come back and you reassess it together. So I guess we've been fortunate that my brother-in-law often says it. We're widely different personalities here. Widely. And maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I mean, I'm kind of a crazy whack job nut that just, I'm not afraid to take chances. To relax, I jump. One of the most relaxing things I've ever found doing in my life is skydiving. To give you an idea, I just love it. And because it's the most calming thing I've ever done. And I ride motorcycles way too fast. My wife is terrified of this stuff. My brother-in-law, not so much too. So it all kind of blends together, maybe.
Yeah.
And so,
Wow.
It's opposites attract. Maybe that's the key.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we can find our differences between each other. Like my brother and I, or my sister and I, will fight quite a bit. I mean, what we have started to do is these weekly meetings, like you're saying. This recently, because we're currently in the off season, we're not really open right now. We've started doing even bi-weekly meetings, and it does get a bit cumbersome to sit down and talk twice a week for an hour or whatever it is, But at least we're able to get everything out on the table. Is that essentially what you guys try to do, opposed to, checking the financials like you're saying? Is that when you guys take the time to sit down and say, hey, man, I didn't really appreciate how you were speaking to me about this in this particular fashion in front of my staff? Or you're really knocking me for trying this new thing over in the agritourism or the marketing side of things, but this is something what I really believe in, and I think it's really good for the business, and I don't appreciate how you're coming across. Is that where you guys solve these differences, or is it kind of just on the fly? Have you guys kind of developed a program to solve these differences, or what has worked for you guys? Because I think that's one of the main things that really happens at our farm, personally, is that we'll have these arguments, and they'll kind of just resonate, and it'll become animosity, because you don't solve them. You don't have that open discussion. You don't shake hands afterwards. And that's something maybe that's our family dynamic needs to fix and get better at. But that happens anywhere. But how do you guys solve them?
Well, I think you always have in the heat of the moment, if somebody's passionate about something, it's going to maybe boil to the surface more. And that can be a good thing because that's what drives the uniqueness of a business, essentially. There's some drive, there's some emotion there, there's some fire. That's your competitive advantage over in the marketplace. But I guess your question is, how do you temper that among individuals? Well, I guess it comes back to physics again. I get back to and do unto others is how you want done unto yourself. And I think, in the moment we might flare up, but then we always come back and say, what's good for the business? Is that really important to me? Or is it better for the business? And how would I feel if that was me in their shoes? And I think that just solves 90% of our problems right there. That we're just respectful of each other from the standpoint, again, staying in our lanes. That, every so often I come up with a wine idea or a beer idea and I see Todd's eyes roll or something like that. And it's like, hey, I trust it that, maybe I'm too far out there with that and we need to revisit. So I guess it's trust. It's do unto others as you want to do unto yourself.
Oh, yeah.
It's staying in your lane. And it's just constant communication and micro adjustments so that you don't ever get to that point of no turn where a person's heels are dug in so big and so deep that they feel they can't reverse, even if they know that it's right, because they've gone so far so long. It's like anything. You just kind of got to keep chipping away at it and don't let it get to be a problem. Fix the little problem. Don't let it become a big problem. That's often. So I think your bi-weekly meeting at your guys' stages, especially at your ages and stuff, is a good idea. It's an awesome idea because it keeps letting that steam off all the time. And you never know when you're conversing. You know, things happen. None of us as smart as all of us. And a lot of times that can really come to play on chance meetings and organized meetings. The key is just to keep doing it.
Very smart. Very, very smart. I really appreciate that.
Well,
go ahead.
every so often a blind nut finds a squirrel or something like that.
Okay, I just want to jump back to. Do you have a question? I have one.
No, go for it.
I want to jump back to Kara. You said that she went off and now she's 27. She came back to the farm. That's like a reoccurring question that many of these NAFTA members have. It's like, how do I get my kid back on the farm? Or my kid's driving me crazy. I need to send him away and hopefully he'll come back. Just anything along those lines. Like, I'm sure you have had some experience with this, being a parent and having a kid that's gone through this. I'm 27 myself, and I was born and raised in agriculture. This is what I loved. I grew up driving the tractor. I was like, I want to be a farmer from the beginning. And I knew that I had a passion for entrepreneurship, and I wanted to pair it together. I just knew that from the beginning. That's the way that I am, and that's the way that my interests were. But how did that develop into Kara and what she does at your farm?
Well, she never really did finish college. Kind of went away in that sense, but has really, to her disadvantage, our disadvantage, she never did make that clean break like we probably would have liked her to. She worked part-time and elsewhere and did other things, and it's about the last 2 years, just because of change in life, that as our business grew, we've been growing like crazy here, especially our food service. She fell into this role and started. She's a beach body coach too, so she's all into fitness and eating right and things like that. So she's entrepreneurial on that aspect. So she has her own business and then she works here. So she kind of sort of went away, then came back in. Brienne might be the interesting one to see here. I don't know.
Sure.
She's actually going to be, not to blow my own horn, I'm not exactly sure how this happened, but she's a All-American collegiate athlete. Now she has running shoe companies coming and offering her jobs.
Wow.
And so, right out of, and they even paid for her master's, the schools we sent to, because she just broke 5-minute miles. She never ran that good in high school. So,
Insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so anyways, my point is, we'll see. She does have but she also is, I don't know, you do it for other reasons.
Oh, yeah.
For how control, freedom, responsibility, ability to pursue entrepreneurial ideas, and so maybe that would bring her back. Brett, he's going to be a lifer here, but and that's a challenge that we have on top of everything of finding a path for him while presumably after we're gone, so there's a interesting family dynamic there for sure. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but Kara has just kind of grown into this role, and I don't know if she gets good enough at it. Maybe she eventually does go, but honestly, my son-in-law is working here now too, and I'm training him outside, and so we're kind of stumbling along on some of it. You can try and put a structure there, but you kind of got to go in the moment where you see the path of least resistances that makes sense. The physics. Well, boy, there's nothing wrong with bearing down and fighting through a problem. I'm not saying I haven't done that, but I prefer to just kind of sit back sometimes. I'm an impatient dude, but I have found that if I just sit back and wait, often the answer comes to me.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%. Very interesting.
Oh, that's really cool.
What do you want to into next?
It's kind of a different question. Online, I went to YouTube because I was lazy. I didn't want to read. So I looked at a lot of things that you guys have on
That's
YouTube.
embarrassing. My YouTube's embarrassing.
Well, not your YouTube. I saw a news channel. I saw this podcast or show. It's called Oh Brew. And Todd was on there. I think you're a brewmaster. Yeah, and
That's ancient. 10 years old, I think that one.
no, it's cool. If it's 10 years old, I'm really excited to see how you guys handle those challenges that he mentioned. So, back then he mentioned that you guys were doing 1,000 barrels a year, right? In the
Wine production, we'll probably do about 25,000 gallons this year.
yeah, in wine production, but I'm thinking of beer. So, not Todd, Jake. Jake was the brewmaster. So.
That guy was just here last week, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he mentioned that the brewery is 1,000 barrels, right? So, and you guys are running into challenges of, like you have said, you're 25,000 gallons of wine. How are you guys handling even like the distribution? How are you guys handling the space? Jake mentioned that like the brewery is going to outgrow the winery. The winery is going to warehousing. How is that challenge coming to fruition? And how are you guys working that out?
Well, and that's a great question because we're located on about 100 acres. And that sounds like a lot of land until you start doing what we're doing here. And when you start trying to park the cars, keep it aesthetically a legit farm, not spread gravel. A lot of our parking lots are hay fields. We bale hay and then come fall, now I'm finding I'm parking on them in the summer, so that's kind of hard to do. But the winery is actually growing pretty significantly too, and I'm not sure where they'll both end up, to be honest with you. I'm excited about the craft brewery industry. We adapted it as a piece of the puzzle. We saw wine sales increase when we added a brewery. So that was part of it because now we're located in a dry township too, so we're doing a lot of different things here. The way the laws are written in Ohio, they're very pro-business. Ohio's a lot of things, but one thing it is you have low taxes and a pro-business attitude, and that can make an entrepreneur's life a lot easier.
Oh yeah.
And when I hear about what you guys up in Canada have to do, from Phil to you, it's pretty staggering. I give you guys a lot of mad props for having to deal with that. So the brewery is going to come along. There's a lot more challenges in the brewery than the winery. The cost of producing beer is ridiculous compared to wine. The cost of the equipment, the consumer. The wine consumer is very consistent. Our wines in, I think, I lost track. I'd have to look at it. We have a sales rep. We're in 350 or 400 locations on sale with our wine. I mean, through distribution and stuff like that. Brewery, it's pushing, I don't know where it's at, but when you get a good wine, we have interesting labels, different marketing than a lot of them do. You get wine in a position, as long as it continues to sell, it stays there. You get beer in a position, as long as it continues to sell, it has equal chance of being bumped up by the next new thing that comes
Wow. Yeah.
So there's an enormous amount of maintenance on all levels in beer production versus wine, from equipment to marketing to everything. And so we're going to continue to grow it. However, it's a lot more challenging than the wine, and the consumer is much more. They're not as loyal. I'm not saying loyalty is assumed. Loyalty is only earned, and but we can do the same things in the wine business that don't work in the beer business.
Well, that's very interesting that you're saying that there is a big difference in regard to consumer behavior from beer consumers to wine consumers. Because from what I'm seeing after hearing you talk is that beer consumers are easily influenced by the new best thing, what their friends are drinking, what the marketing climate is like, what the health concerns are, because there's light beer, there's heavy beer, what time of season it is, where a wine consumer is, like, for my example, like, I have some wines in my head that I just love, and that's what I feel like I'll never move away from that taste. Maybe my taste will transition as I get older, but I know those wines have a either emotional connection because I drank them in California at a specific winery, or I had them when I was with some friends, and I have some bottles on reserve. And I think that's what kind of creates that loyalty, where wine you can preserve. It's one of those things that you do preserve, and that's just the consumer behavior behind purchasing a bottle of wine. Whereas beer, you're not seeing the same thing. Is that correct? Am I kind of summarizing that correctly, or?
Yeah, we have our flagships, which stick in there for a core. I'm not trying to throw the beer consumer under the bus here. I'm just saying, because you do have it's that core consumer that we have one that's our IPL Peachfork, boom, stays right there. But we have some really, really good dark beers, outstandingly flavorful, well-bodied, well-balanced. Jake does a great job with them. And all of a sudden, and it'll be at a bar, and it'll be pulling fine. They'll sell a lot of it, and it gets bumped out because a new one comes along.
Yeah.
They will literally replace a well-performing product with something new that has no track record just because it's new.
Wow.
Why? Because the consumer will reward that. So it's just mind-boggling sometimes.
Yeah.
Wow.
To point about the wine, and one thing I've always focused on here from the beginning, from day one, we're all getting older, and the beer people, I noticed when I went to the conferences, thought that people were coming to them to buy beer, and I sat back, and I didn't want to sound like I was all arrogant because I was new to the beer business, and I really didn't know it, but I know marketing a little bit. I know the consumer. People don't buy beer; they buy time. They are purchasing like we all know, an experience, and the beer happens to be part of that. Wine is a little bit more inelastic to that when you're talking about economic factors of elasticity of demand. It seems to hold in there a little bit. However, again, when you come back to the wine snobs, they're all about this vintage blah, 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 whatever it was. It might have been a great wine, but it's always substitutable. There's always a replacement at some level for it.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
One thing you never substitute is time. Once that moment's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
And your memory is tied to that, and your behavior towards trying to replicate that is related to the product up to elasticity of demand. So I didn't want to sound too egg-headed there, but the wine does seem to capture moments that people resonate a little bit more strongly from an emotional standpoint, and will be a little bit more motivated to come back to that. And so again, I never fooled myself. I'm not saying you can make a crappy product. I'm not saying that at all. There's a lot of crappy beer out there. That's why, because a brewery owner, a guy who was drinking dark beer in the 70s and liking it, I don't go out and sample that much beer because fully half of them aren't worth drinking. And it's almost disappointing. So you can always go back and buy more wine or beer, but you can never go back and make more time.
What's the secrets between having those flagships, and why have they stayed the test of time then?
I think there is a core component of quality for known value products. A good IPA. IPAs are what set the craft beer world on fire the last 10 to 20 years. And now they've been so well that they are established just like a good lager is. IPA is no longer just a hipster beer or something like that, or a fad. A good IPA is a good IPA. It fits a very specific niche, a flavor profile, and in the case of consumer need, sometimes only a good IPA is going to quench your thirst. We have an awesome Pilsner. I call it our good lawnmower beer. And people laugh. They go, "What do you mean?" I go, if you're out cutting the grass one day, you're as hot as heck, it's really, really steady, what do you want? You want that Pilsner. You want a good, clean, crisp
That's it. Easy to drink. Refreshing.
Yes.
A good German lager. That is a lawnmower.
That's what I look for in a beer.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
That's what I look for.
And so we have a great lager. Our peach fork, that's a peach wheat. We thought it was a foo-foo beer, but we don't. Jake makes it legitimately. It isn't just a beer with a bunch of flavors dumped on top. But it's a sweeter beer. So it kind of blends that consumer that wants the transition, who maybe is coming from a Bud Light or what they think is beer, or any of those. They're craft beer curious.
Yeah.
But if you go and throw at them some West Coast piney IPA, just like if you have a sweet wine drinker and you go and throw them a Cabernet that's been in oak barrels for 4 years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to drink that and say, wine sucks.
Yeah.
Your tongue's not there yet, you know? And that's the same thing for the beer drinker. So our Pitchfork is successful, I think, because it helps in that person who is looking for a better use of their time.
Very interesting.
Better use of their time. Drinking
Yeah.
that beer takes time. They have chosen to come to you to devote that 2, 4, 6 hour period. They drove there. They want their taste buds to be satisfied, but they also are craft curious. It bridges that gap. It's much like a sweet wine or a semi-sweet wine that can take the person. Your fruit wines are probably a great example.
Oh yeah. Exactly.
They come into there, they look at that, they have a recollection of grandma's apple pie,
Yeah.
blueberry muffin, or whatever else like that, but now they can get booze in it. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And when they drink it, it doesn't make their tongue curl to the roof of their mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I think you have a balance there.
Very
You
true.
gotta have beers or wines that meet that consumer's time need.
Very interesting. Yeah, no, that's a great way to summarize that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Is that you just look at a good IPA, a solid Pilsner, and that Pitchfork. It kind of hits all those categories of what a key beer drinker is looking for, but in their own specific ways. You know?
Yeah.
So that's
It's personal. It's people have different tastes.
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, my question kind of goes into, I did an audit, a bit of an audit on your Facebook events. You know, to do an audit, to do a solid audit on Facebook, like to do a solid audit on someone's Facebook, of someone who does a good job on Facebook, who posts consistently, it takes a lot of time, because you can go ahead and get into all the different types or all the different profiles that person has, where they're repeating the posts, where they're repeating the captions, how they're setting up their captions. You know, the small nuances that you kind of pick up after you get that feedback of posting for so long, that you have, that I have, anybody who's in marketing that has. It takes such a long time. But what I really decided to focus on was your events, because that really set that. Like, I haven't looked at another farm or agritourism operation that offers the plethora of events you guys have. You know, a lot of them are dedicated on drinking and IPAs, on your beer and your wine. But I really do want to take a step back and transition into what your thoughts are on holding events, regardless if they're Facebook events or wherever you do hold them. What they mean to your farm, your organization, your business, and how that really came to be. Is that something that you guys have thought about? And like, I want to hold 200 plus or 100 plus events a year? Or is that something where you guys were like, I want to hold an event next week. Let's do it. I want to hold an event the following week. Let's do it. Like, how did that come to be?
NAFTMA, North American Farmers Direct Marketing Association, 20 plus years ago. We were farming 3,000 acres, milking 150 head of Holsteins, plethoras of equipment. I was a certified crop advisor, blending fertilizer, blah, 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 custom applicator, $6.5 million a year business on less than a 0.5% margin, trying to support families.
Wow.
We were going under fast. So we transitioned. The day we started entertaining people was the day we started paying the bills. The day we began selling alcohol was the day we started making money. So it was a gradual process. We went to some conferences. We saw other people doing it. My father-in-law, I jokingly tell people, in the family dynamics, we've done corn mazes now for 21, 22 years. At year 15, he goes, this is just a fad. So there's, even with success, now he's kind of like the other day, he goes, I think that computer stuff you do might just be working. Because I was always running around taking videos and doing this and doing posts and stuff like that. I was the first people. Again, I'm not afraid to jump out of airplanes, so I'm not afraid to do a Facebook Live.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, it's like whatever. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pushing 57 years old. The bucket list ticket is getting pretty well full. I have very little risk
awesome.
here, but so they just kind of evolve. And I think you mentioned during the pre-interview we talked, they're out of personal interests too, and they're out of things that I recognize are marketable. You know, and then they're also out of things that align with our competitive advantage. You know, what underutilized resources do I have that I can easily, with a couple of tweaks and not much investment, take a shot and see where it goes. And remember that how would I feel? Do unto others as how you want done unto yourself. If I go to one of these things, what do I expect? Everything's about management of expectations. If you don't expect anything, you're never disappointed. You know, but if you start dialing that in and tracking it and paying attention to it, it can provide a roadmap for you to virally or naturally evolve this process. Yeah, we do over 200 events a year. Sometimes I just pull them out of my ass and spur of the moment, but now it's a little harder to do. Back in the day when we had nothing to lose and everything to gain, it was easy. Now I have staff and stuff that roll their eyes when I walk in the door. I go, say, hey, I was thinking. Right away they just go, because all of a sudden you meet staff and this and that, and my guy Scott just hates when I do that.
They go.
Yeah. Oh, the lavender thing was the latest thing. Our lavender event, I'm doing a thing. Right, I don't know what it means. We're doing second year for our lavender event. Why am I doing lavender? Because I saw people were selling lavender events out. I had no idea what lavender was. I've farmed, though. I mean, how hard can it be?
Yeah.
I've killed a lot of stuff, so if it dies, it won't be the first time.
Yeah.
You know, I saw the potential there, and so we went and did it. And now I'm looking at, like, I shared the Facebook event from the girl who we're partnering with, and we're at, like, it started on February 6th, and it has 148,000 people it's reached, and I haven't even marketed it yet.
Holy shit.
I'm getting mildly terrified. I just ordered another 1,200 plugs of lavender yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, I think you saw the post I put up about the sunflower.
Yeah.
You know, I'm digging on that. You know, that's at 84,000 people.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, now it only has like 2,000 engagements, but 2,000 engagements, and we're what? I don't know, 100 days out?
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I got to be careful here now. So the events evolve. They're personal interest. I'm into cars, muscleheads, gear. You probably see the post with motorcycles. This morning, I'm not if it means anything, guys, but I'm putting an air tech kit on my 65 Impala. I leveraged it with a local guy doing it. I'm swapping his labor and a discount on his labor for promotion at my cruisins. Then I went and blasted it over 3 or 4 local Facebook pages of car events with the hope that this is what I'm doing. Maybe you're interested in this. Social media, everything we're going. It's really freaking simple, and it's a real pain in the ass at the same time.
Yeah. But how did you get to having, like, what is your ideology in having that many events? Like, why do you do that?
Because they work. On our cruise-ins, okay, we're 10 years into them. Our Thursday night car cruise events that we have that come in here, if it rains on a Thursday in July versus a sunny where I'll have a successful cruise-in, we have between 150 and 275 cars show up, plus spectators on a Thursday night. It'll mean a bottom line gross difference between $4,000 and $6,000 on a Thursday. And so I know they work. Now, it took me a few years to get there, but it works. Then I rebuilt a Jeep a few years ago. I got involved with Jeep clubs. Well, the woman all these people have lives, and they interact with different aspects. There's all these overlapping concentric circles. I rebuilt a Jeep because I always thought Jeeps were cool. I got an old school one, V8, big tires, makes a bunch of noise. I call it carbon footprint. But anyhow,
This guy's nuts. This guy's nuts.
One of the people that was in the Jeep clubs that I interacted with was a office manager for a local cheese company that had 900 employees. And we ended up with a 948-person event in the fall then.
Wow. Holy shit.
Because of the cross-marketing, I was able to leverage.
Yeah.
It was because of a Jeep.
Yeah.
Now, would it have happened anyhow? Potentially. I don't know. But you never know. So I guess the events are just throw a lot of shit in the wall and you see what sticks.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. It really comes down to the failing fast. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
Don't stay authentic to yourself is what you're saying, and just do something really simple with as much as little resources. Try it. Make sure that you are managing expectations, like what you're saying, and fail fast. Give it a shot.
Yeah, your first loss is your least loss, and so our first year in the corn maze business, for example, we were broke. We were broke for the reason a lot of the event, everything I have up here is handmade and hand built because I had no money to put into it.
Wow.
So it made it easy. It made it, for some reason it was hard, but it was also easy. I couldn't get a loan and have to worry about defaulting on the payment.
Yeah.
I was past that. I was already, if we didn't succeed, we were done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
You've
very
been there.
binary. It was very crisp. It was very clean. All that kind of just gets worked into everything I do going forward then. As you get a little more involved and you have more cushion, the lavender, I got an acre and a half of lavender, I got 15 grand in it. I could have never done that starting out new. But as a percentage of the overall business now, it's relatively small. I can take the chance. It's kind of like Monopoly. When you get a little bit bigger and you got more houses on the properties, it's really an adapt analogy. You can take more risk.
Buy a hotel.
I still keep that core concept in mind and don't get sloppy. You can never get sloppy. You can never erase the passion or the connection to it. It has to be real. I DJ our cruisins. My DJ passed away. I stepped up and DJ them. I have a car that I take around to other shows. They see me there. Hey, it's Farmer Bill. You wouldn't believe how I can off-push the cost of brochures and marketing and radio ads by having a car and getting out and saying hi. I mean, it's...
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah.
People can identify with you then. Everything in marketing, when you're buying something, when you're buying a jacket, shoes, whatever it is, you don't look at the product, you say, can I see myself in that product? Whether you know it or not. Will those look good on me? You don't buy it if it looks, you think it's going to look bad on you.
No, of course.
The same thing is true for the event. You're not going to go to the event if you don't see yourself there smiling and, again, coming back to making a good use of your time.
Yeah.
Or how social media, again, here's the easy thing. Here's all you have to remember about social media. It answers the question, how can I help you? As long as you always remember that whatever you're doing, whatever the post is, whatever you're doing, it ain't about you. It is about you. The content is you. I get that. But the intent of the post, for it to be effective, has to answer the question for your guest, consumer, or potential customer is, how can I help you? It's again, simple physics.
That's so smart.
Yeah. This is age-old stuff. Everybody thinks it's new. No, it's not. It's basic. It's real basic. Now, the tools that we can multiply it with can get confusing.
That's what people get. That's what people get lost with. Like I personally, everyone. It just if you're not focusing on that foundational piece of how can I help you, you can get lost with the type of camera, how many people, the clothes you have wearing, how aesthetically pleasing it is, the type of caption you're writing. But if it doesn't answer that main question of that value proposition you're trying to get across, it's irrelevant. It's really irrelevant.
Local web guy that helps me, and I think what I do on social media sucks. I don't think I'm very good at it. When you look at the quote-unquote professionals, I'm like, wow, I could do this better, I could do that better, I should do this better, I could do that. But I quit worrying about that because of this, and it isn't. I say this with all humility. And my social media guy who builds funnels and has global web perspective, let's put it that way. He goes, yeah, but the difference is you do it.
Yeah.
It was like, so a lot of times, and this is one of the few exceptions to the rule, I think a bad social media post, as long as it isn't offensive or something like that, as long as it's authentic and it has good content, is better than no post at all.
Yep.
or it's better than a highly polished one that looks faux by a professional agency that's packaging content, because the consumer will sniff that out. So if you're up there bumbling, your shirt's untucked, or you got something, your hair's messed up, and you use bad grammar or whatever else, but you showed them your strawberries.
Yep.
All they remember is,
Yeah.
gosh, that wasn't Hugh Grant showing, or Matthew McConaughey's trying to sell Continentals. They still can't sell Continentals.
Yeah. So true.
That's so true.
I mean, we went to the auto show. My wife loves Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
We didn't even look at Continentals.
Yeah.
We looked at Acuras.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it does Acura.
Yeah.
So my point is, I guess, I always try and come back to the thing, how can I help you? Is it good content? Sometimes I miss.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just Phil. I'm going on vacation, so I scheduled 9 Facebook posts, and they're kind of lame. But because they're not as good as the stuff you do in the moment.
That's right.
I have to satisfy the logarithm gods. Because if I don't keep putting some...
A logarithm?
The gods.
Algorithm.
Algorithm gods. The gods.
They're going to throw thunderbolts at me. So, everybody watching my social media posts, they're just sharing events and their stuff, but they're just holding my place.
Yeah.
Is what they're doing.
That's
because
right.
I discovered I went on vacation once and didn't schedule posts, and when I came back and started up again, nobody was seeing them.
Wow.
It was like, you've got to just get at least one a day out there.
Consistency.
That logarithm, it doesn't care about you.
Yeah.
It doesn't care, and it's part of this puzzle. So you got to get by those guys. You got to get by that structure. Then once you get to your consumer, if it's good, it's like anything. It's physics.
Yep.
If it's good, it'll catch.
Yep. It'll keep rolling. It'll get bigger. Momentum will pick up. 100%. Totally agree. So you're saying essentially. Well, I feel like you touched on a lot of topics in regards to events, but social media marketing and then also staying authentic to what you're doing, but failing fast, kind of really built up that snowball, like we just said, and it really gained that momentum to now where you hold so many events. And of course, some events have way more engagement than others, but there's a level of your events that you are holding via your Facebook, which are reoccurring. And are those your smaller pushes on days off or days that would not be as busy, or what's your concept on those? Because not that many farms have these reoccurring nights,
I call it base hits and bunts. A lot of times we get hung up on doing this great big event. We're going to do this festival. And the thing I hate about festivals is you tend to have to get too much overhead into them, or your variable costs just go poof through the roof.
Yep.
So the events have to be relatable to fixed costs and covering fixed costs. So that's why if I got a building here, it's here 365 days a year, I might as well be using it. And and by using it and getting a return from it, it lowers my fixed costs. So we have live entertainment Friday and Saturday night. Doesn't cost as much, answers the fixed costs. Some of the events are very theme consistent. I'm not trying to go after a big crowd. I'm trying to go after a small dedicated crowd that is going to be a multiplier. Example of that is our monthly vintners dinner. That grew under our locker club. So I guess the events have different. I try and look out where people are using their time. Again, I come back to time, and then align that with, okay, what do I have that I can align my competitive advantage with? How can I help them use their time, and how can I fill up and cover my fixed costs without raising my variable costs too much? Every so often you got to swing for the fences though, with a big one. Again, base hits and bunts, but then when you go in there, think of these events as being your ball team. You got your guy that can lay down the bunt. You got your guy that can hit to right field when you got a runner on third. You've got your guy that's going to come up to the plate when bases are loaded. And so think of your events like that. And the ball field is your place.
That's so cool.
When you're going to go ahead and do this, you have this strategy in mind to fill in those gaps. and effective management and effective use of your time and your facilities kind of will eventually mold the events, I think. To the point, the lavender, like, okay, I'm watching lavender events sell out. And these people are doing a crappy job. Terrible customer service, pre-selling tickets, running out of lavender saying, sorry. And they do this for year after year. And the people keep coming back. I think I can do better than that. I wouldn't do my business like that. So what if I just did it well? What if I just did it okay? Okay, lavender ripens mid-June through July. I'm not selling anything else then. So let's go ahead and put it in.
Yep.
Oh, I'm not going to market my lavender like everybody else markets their lavender, though. I'm going to go ahead and when you come out, buy your lavender, you get a buy one lunch, get a second one half off. So when they're coming to do their lavender, I want to make sure whatever I do event-based supports the market.
Oh, yeah.
Again, covering the overhead and fixed costs by leveraging it with an event. So the car cruises, rebuilding my car, it's all over social media. I'm doing it a kind of a new school way because the car cruise demographic is aging. But there is a small, and you guys aren't doing it. Like
No.
guys my age did.
Yeah.
But there are many who are. Summit Racing wouldn't have 4 warehouses nationwide now. The mothership's 20 minutes from me. Okay, I see they're selling this stuff yet. Yeah, they're not selling it to many people, but they're still selling it to some. I want that 40-year-old. Oh, what's that 40-year-old drink? He drinks beer.
Yeah.
So I don't market a car cruise. I market an event space that has cars that serves food and beer.
Very cool.
And then what does that guy do? He works somewheres. He tells his buddies, how can I help you? Honey, I want to go to the car cruise. Oh, I don't want to go sit around a bunch of cars. It's a winery. Oh, all of a sudden they're coming to the event together. How can I help her? It's a winery. It's
Wow.
cool. He's happy. She's happy. Intergenerationally. Okay, Grandpa's got this cool car. Only time we ever see it is when we go over there on Thanksgiving and there's a sheet on top of it. Hey, let's go to the farm. What are the kids going to do? Oh, we do wagon rides at our car cruise. I bring my barrel train out at my car cruise.
Very cool.
I have some of these car cruises. I have 3 generations in a car cruise.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
That's insane.
That's cool.
and they have, and it evolves to the point they happen to have a car.
So cool.
You know,
Yeah.
The cruise isn't about the car.
No, it's not.
Good use of time that happens to be themed with a car.
Yeah.
Are you so essentially? I just want to kind of, cause in my head, what I'm thinking is that you're looking at the type of offerings that you have and pairing it with the lifestyles that people live, and adapting it to how you can kind of package that up and make money on it, essentially.
And you're also passionate about it. You want to have fun. That's a huge part of it too, right? So.
You heard my tagline at Maize Valley. We make great wine and beer.
Yeah.
I try and end the videos with that. I don't try and be all things to all people because that's a certain
Way to fail. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that because people could misconstrue that. Again, what competitive advantages do I have? How do they align? How can you make these symbiotic relationships that are just waiting to happen? You just have to recognize them. You have to look and see. It's like playing Tetris. You know, I mean, it's event. Think of it as event Tetris.
Yeah.
I mean, how could I spin that long one? Ooh, that one dropped in. That hits 4 of them. Awesome. You know,
Yeah.
I really brought it up. You know? Oh, there's that damn triangle. Which way do I turn that thing and get it to drop? You know?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Oh, and guess what? If I do it faster and click the button, I get more points. That's more money.
Yep.
You know, so
No, for sure.
again, I'm about analogies, and so, yeah, think of it that way. How do you
Cool.
twist those things and
Yeah.
drop them in there and fill it up?
I'm excited about this podcast to drop.
Oh,
I think
it's
this is one of the
This
best
is hype.
podcasts we've ever done.
This is
The best.
probably the
It
best
is
one.
the
Really,
100%
this
the
is great.
best.
This is great.
It's excellent, unreal.
Yeah.
My question for you now is, after these years of all these things you've done, from being a full-time farmer making very little money to going to agritourism, supporting your family, being a mad scientist, focusing on your authenticity, I think you've already have touched on it on my answer. But what are some of the main key performance indicators you kind of try to facilitate in your day to day? That you're just like it's your culture. What do you guys all think about?
Well, I don't know what everybody else thinks about. My wife often talks about it. We get up here. We're most of our lives. And I'm not saying we're rolling in money now, but I don't worry.
Yeah.
One thing is going to be critical to us continually is we'll probably never retire because we always need a purpose or a challenge.
That's how it is, yeah.
Or some level. My key performance indicator is I always get something done every day, no matter how little it is. And if I have a list of 6 things, I try and get 7 done. And so you always just do, it's a tired analogy. Oh, give 110% or whatever else like that. But also be cool and not freak out if you only get 60% done that day.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't make it a trend. Every so often stuff happens and you're not going to get there, or you just have a lazy day. And you know what? If it's good for your brain or good for your mental health, and your checkbook has to take a hit, maybe that's okay.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Just don't make a trend of it.
Yeah.
Don't be sloppy. Don't
sloppy.
forget
Yeah.
what take you to the dance.
Don't be lazy. Yeah.
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 So it's my performance indicator is just keep swimming, like that famous blue fish said in Finding Nemo.
Dory.
You got a good variety of references here, my friend.
I love it.
A very solid variety. Tetris to Nemo. What did you say, Matthew McConaughey? You're 100% about the entire family dynamics.
It's all about
100%.
physics. Yeah.
Well, I'm blessed. I've worked hard and I have a unique perspective on things, but I'm blessed. I have a wonderful wife, great kids, a somewhat sometimes confused in-law family, but at the end supportive. And so, who wouldn't look at me and scratch their head?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I cut them a lot of slack.
Yeah.
It's because, I'm a goofball.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. I don't think we touched on that. You being an in-law, it was Michelle's parents, your wife's parents, who had ownership of all this.
Yeah.
Right? I know of friends who are in NAFTMA that have husbands or wives that are, I think they're kind of doing their own thing or their own jobs. But I know some of them who are also in the business. And I think you and I both know of some who have been in the business and are now out of the business. So when you kind of look at it from your perspective, I think that's very cool. I don't think that many people think about that. Being an in-law, being someone who's an outsider coming in.
Yeah.
What's your advice? What was the last thing you said?
What's your advice?
Oh, advice. Wow. I think you need to understand the overall structure of how we operate here from a legal standpoint, which helps that. My mother and father-in-law were Candy Farms, Maize Valley. We just worked for them up until the point that we started the market. At the point when we diversified and started the market, we formed a separate LLC, Maize Valley Farm Market Limited, that has 5 members: my mother-in-law, father-in-law, my wife, myself, and my brother-in-law. So it's a separate legal entity with a 5-way split. And it has 5 equal participation influence on how decisions are made. And in fact, my father-in-law stepped back quite a bit and just trusts us to do what we want after a few years after he saw his ideas. We were doing things that he didn't think were a good idea, but boy, they were working. And so he was wise enough to step back and say, he didn't think the winery would work. Because they never thought the winery would work, but we were far enough down the road that he said, go ahead and try. Doggone it, it worked. And then he wasn't sure about the brewery.
Yeah.
Well, it worked. So after a while, I guess we proved him wrong enough times that he just kind of kept his mouth shut. But
yeah.
And he'll tell you that. He'll say that. He'll go, well, I wouldn't have done it that way, but boy, it sure worked.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
And so I guess, but at the same token, he was a AA in the shop, turn red in the face, throwing wrenches kind of guy.
Yeah.
When he was in charge. But he also recognized that that wasn't working anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and so he let us have some rope. At first, probably with the idea that it was going to hang ourselves, but at the end, we ended up making a pretty beautiful tapestry out of it.
Cool.
And so, so there's that dynamic. So, when it comes to this, as the in-law, I'm on equal footing. But also, there was a time, prior to this, we worked for them for 15 years. When I was blending fertilizer, filling mini bulk shuttles, you know, we had a business. We blended fertilizer. We had almost 500,000 on-farm grain storage, bushels, huge. We were an elevator. I dried grain around the clock, slept in my pickup truck during wheat season to keep the dryer going, you know. A lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he ruled absolutely. I was totally his bitch. And sorry I said that.
No, it's okay.
We're gonna post that for sure.
We don't care.
We're gonna post that for sure.
That's content. That's content.
Authentic.
Whatever, yeah. So, at that time, when we split off the dairy farm, it was so bad that my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, who ran the dairy, chose not to come into this because they had had enough. So yeah, it was a stressful time, but I don't know. My advice is, look at the big picture. How does it align with your goals? I actually quit and I was going to go teach school. My father-in-law came to me and says, "Don't do that. I want you to stay because what's the point in doing all this if we're not going to keep it in the family or we're going to keep the family going?" Saying all of that, as I look forward, now that I'm becoming him, how do I relate this to my kids and how do we do this? Because it's different now. We have an established business. When we had nothing to lose, we had nothing to give. Now we have something here that that still has legs. So we're looking at it from a different perspective of how we can continue this going forward. But with the overall idea is something's only worth what you can sell it for. And so if you can't totally go down the path of family, I got to do this for my kids. You got to do it for yourself first.
Yeah.
And then you have to make a opportunity or an option potentially for somebody else, whoever that is, who would want to pick up the ball. Because I think this business, if it keeps going the way we're going, it is going to need non-family help. And they are going to have ownership. Otherwise, it's not worth doing.
Okay.
You can't make these decisions and put this stuff in for a paycheck. There has to be more. And even if ownership doesn't mean stock or equity or something you can sell, it means a connection that and an inner pride as a non-family member that, hey, I helped build that. Hey, that event went well. Look at this smart. That's job satisfaction. The guy at NAFTA said something like, and I hate using the word millennial. I hate it because I'm kind of weird. I was born in '63. I have a bunch of brothers and sisters that are true boomers. My folks grew up in the Depression. I have this 100-year perspective. You know, you might say, you know, I'm kind of in the middle. I remember the Vietnam War draft and people burning their draft cards and women, sexual liberation, burning their bras. Those were the boomers.
That's crazy, yeah.
Looking at the boomers like they're a bunch of old people.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I say, the millennials blame the boomers for this, and they blame the boomers. That's the same thing that boomers were doing to the greatest generation.
It repeats.
And I'm sure the greatest generation was ragging on the Civil War generation or whatever, you know. And I try not to get caught up in that. Because, again, it comes back to time. Nothing changes.
Yeah.
You know, evolution takes way too long. We haven't lived long enough to experience it. Yeah. And so,
very true.
I try to always maintain that perspective. But they say millennials will take a pay cut for job satisfaction. That is the first time that's happened. So there is a cultural shift, or maybe not cultural value shift or whatever. I think that is an important part of any business like ours going forward. Any business. I think they want to have a soulful ownership.
Do your kids have employees?
No.
Okay.
They're bottom rung right now, pretty much.
Yeah.
But
Is that something that you're thinking about, or like how are you?
did you say do my kids have employees?
Yeah, do they have people that work for them?
Yes, my daughter is pretty much a first lieutenant in the kitchen. So she has another girl she works with, but then when somebody new comes in, she's telling them what to do. She's in charge. So she's very much mid-level. And my son-in-law Zach, there's only 3 of us out there. So when we have high school kids come in, I'm very cognizant that I tell him what to do, and then I let him relay it, and I don't micromanage or second guess. If I see a problem, I come to Zach. I don't go to the kid, and I don't throw Zach under the bus. And so I'm very stay in my lane. You know, I mean, I got a lane too. And so
I think that's it. I think that's it. If you do that,
that's huge.
I think if you do that and you give freedom to where Zach or Kara can hire their own employees, if they can just do exactly what you're doing, because they've already seen a successful person in their business doing something with new ideas and taking them on and just really giving it a go, you know.
Yeah.
So if Kara is like, hey, listen, Dad, I want to do this in this section of the business, or Zach's like, I want to do this, I want to hire my employees, and all of a sudden they have like a little niche, a little subsidiary of, you know, your company that they've helped grow, they will become more of the business, because that's what's happened with me. That's 100% what happened with me. I was like to my dad, hey, listen, I want to grow strawberries this way. It was on plastic day neutrals. I want to give this a go. We had 10 rows in the beginning. That's all we had. Just 10 rows, maybe 300 feet, 400 feet long. And now we have 15 acres. We have employees. I have a delivery company. Like I buy vehicles for it. It's like a full subsidiary of Man Farms that I manage, you know. Haunted Corn Maze, same thing. They started it, but I was like, hey, listen, this is something that I really want to, you know, give it a go. So now we have 4 management. Like I have 4 people that help me manage the haunt. And there's almost 90 employees peak season just for Haunted. Because it's such a massive part of the farm. It's because I had an idea. I was like, hey, listen, I want to do the corn maze, but I want to put shipping containers in there. I want to have the flexibility of bringing a crane in and popping shipping containers in there and make it a path. And I was like, I want to go in conferences, I want to learn, I want to educate myself on this side of the business. Let me go do it. My dad's like, all right, have at her. Here's this much money. Have at her. Or, well, it wasn't like that. I was like, hey, listen, I need this much money. He's like, no. I'm like, yeah, we got to try it. All right, we got to give it a go. And so it was just that agreement that we came to and giving it a go and showing him the payoff that his expenditures were going to have a return if we were to price it like this. And my parents are smart enough to know that if I was going to say, it's our first year of Haunted, if we have 5,000 people show up over 20 days, which is, you know, just a couple hundred people a day, we will make 20 grand, 30 grand, whatever it is, 40 grand, and we spent 10 grand. And if you have that conversation way beforehand, and if you just plant those seeds in your kid that they can do this, but they need to communicate these things in advance, I think it really opens up the doors for your kids to walk through to become bigger and grow into their position on a farm. That's my perspective. That's just how I see it. And my brother has the same story.
Yeah.
He has the exact same story with the winery. So.
I listened to your trip to Atlanta podcast. So I heard your comments on it too. So
Yeah, it's this exact same stuff.
Really good actors, but not engaging, I think, is the one thing I took away from there, from the one thing you went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you mentioned. I gotta hand it to you. I gotta give you guys props because you're farther along than I am. My daughter works in the kitchen, but we have somebody else hires her, and then she deals with what comes along.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
But we're also in a different phase of lives, I guess, too.
Yeah.
So, but no, you guys are. I applaud that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do everything going forward, so you got to let them learn.
Hell no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Education costs money.
Yeah.
No matter, I don't care if it's college, I don't care if it's time, I don't care if it's experience. So if I watch these guys doing jobs out here, I give them a general direction, and I watch them, I go, well, that ain't going to work out. Well, I can go over there and tell them how it's going to work out. Or if it's a small thing, okay, that's going to cost me $20 for them to figure out that that's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's $20, but that's $2,000 worth of education because they're going to learn that next time, that didn't
Yes,
happen.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so, or I'll go and we might wrap up and I'll say, hey, you did that wrong. And they'll go, yeah, I know. I go, well, what did we learn from it? So I don't try and be there, again, micromanaging.
Yeah.
You gotta love it's this bubble wrap helicopter world we live in. I know I sound like an old fart when I say that. As a motorcycle rider, it hits home because of this texting and driving thing, and distracted driving, and the reason, part of the reason is this, is especially people your age and clear up to 40 didn't fall down on the playground and get hurt enough. Physics. When your first loss is your least loss.
Yep.
When you put
Yeah.
your wrist, when you're 12 years old because
Yeah.
you did something stupid, you're less likely to do something bigger stupid later.
So true.
So good.
Yeah.
And we think 2-a-day football practices in August is hard. I put myself through college hauling drywall. I was 5'8", I weighed 165 pounds. You know, in 1979, I took home $500 a week because I worked my ass off.
Wow.
Shit.
But we'd get these football players in there who thought they were badasses.
Yeah.
Drywall, I'd chew them up in a day. I used to spend mowing straw August, 7-8 hours a day in a hay mow, putting up whatever. When we had the dairy farm, even when I was out of college, we made 50,000 square bales a year. I mean, and they weighed about 70 to 90 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you weigh 170 and you're picking up something that weighs 90,
Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah.
It makes you tough.
Yeah.
And I guess my point is, to your point, I learned pain. There's no
That's really
better
important.
educator.
Yeah.
And that's either in how you do a job wrong. I know I sound like some, yeah, I remember, but at the same token,
Yeah.
the dude who used to tan leather, make horseshoes from a hunk of iron ore, and drive a team of 8 horses, probably thinks I'm the biggest pussy that ever walked the earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I drive a pickup truck with I got here this morning and had a heated steering wheel. That's full of shit.
Yeah.
Especially when you get older, right? And so, anyways.
Cool.
That's
really
part
cool.
of all that goes into my thinking.
Yeah.
When we're doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And
For sure, man.
now the big thing, if it's like, oh, I got a $5,000 worth of lavender out there that's gonna die if we don't water today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be up your ass.
That's cool, man.
And so, but that's judgment. That's the art.
Yeah. Well, no, I thank you so much, man, for your time. Do you have any the last
I've
question?
got one more question.
Let's do it.
I think it's about taking breaks. So you work your ass off. How do you as a family take breaks? Is it daily, like you take one day a week that you take a break? Do you go on vacation for like 5 weeks straight? What do you guys do? Do you not need to take breaks because you love it so much? I mean, that's not really something you can pick up and put down anywhere else, but how do you kind of relax and control your mental health?
Mental health. I should get some of that. They sell it? That's a great question, because for the first many years of our lives, we had to put that on hold.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Just due to physics.
Yeah.
We're just now lately we've been able to relax a little bit more. So my wife, for example, we're closed on Sundays. Now it doesn't mean she doesn't come in and do orders on Sundays, or I don't come up and scrape the septic plant on Sundays because everybody else off. But she's off Sundays, and I'll take time where I need it. And she's also off another one day a week, usually Tuesdays. If I have a project that requires my attention, I don't stop until it's done. And that's a lot of it, though, is like these crazy events. I have a passion for them, so it's not like, I got buddies who want to go out and ride motorcycles together and stuff like that. I'm like, well, I got to go work ground. I'm like, yeah, I like driving tractor as much as I like riding motorcycles, so I'm gonna go drive tractor. And but like we are fortunate enough now. About 10 years ago, I started going to the Keys, and so we get down there a fair bit now. So that's a big part of our break, that we have my daughter's in the kitchen, and we have staff and stuff like that. We can leave now. A big part of taking breaks is knowing you can leave and it isn't going to go in the ditch.
Yeah.
You know, and so, because, yeah, you can take a break, but if you're always thinking about what's going on.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a break, yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a certain amount of evolution and trust and to get to that point. So to answer your question, I guess they're a relatively new thing to us from a consistent standpoint, but I am trying to work in more of them, because really, if there's one thing I've figured out now in almost 57 years, is it's really not about the future, it's not about the past, it's about the moment. And you better pay attention to the moment and eke out every last little bit of it. My daughter recently cut her end of her finger off in the kitchen because I used to coach her softball team.
Holy
they
shit.
called her Little Bill.
That's crazy.
Because she's mouthy and bossy and, you know.
Little Bill.
And so she puts up this big long Facebook post about slowing down. I need to slow down, not do so much. And that's probably true.
Yeah.
She probably is. I run fast, but I have enough experience to know when to back off when it's critical. It's like a motorcycle. You dive into the corner hard, you brake, you downshift, you look through it, and you go. But you don't do it too hard. You want the thrill, you want the rush, but you push it too much, you're on your side.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't do that. But so in her response, Jack London, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but you can Google this. His name is an author by the name of Jack London, and it basically goes on for his life. He goes, I want to be a superb meteor with every atom glowing in magnificent glow. I don't want to be a sleepy or permanent planet. So even in the breaks, I try and maximize the moment.
Very cool.
And it's just different.
Yeah,
so
very cool.
Your question.
That's excellent.
An hour and 10 minutes, I see. That's long for a podcast.
No, yeah, we've been killing it.
It's great.
Some really good content, man. We're excited.
Yeah.
We're very excited to have
I think people will listen. It's long, but people will listen.
Yeah, and we've asked some specific questions, and I think you've provided some really concise but very thoughtful answers. Yeah. So even if we cut those up to 10-minute, 5-minute, 6-minute segments, put them on Instagram, put them on Afterma for some specific questions, I think they're going to be very helpful for a lot of people. So
yeah.
Does this mean, like, if I get future speaking engagements, I got to give you royalty now or something?
No. No, it's all you. It's all you. No. Man. Maybe some beer on the side, but that's about it. That's it.
You guys got to come to the ALR this year. You got
Oh shit.
This summer here, so.
I've been seeing all your posts. I really got to look into it because it's happening in July, right?
July 22nd and 23rd.
Okay.
Here, we're going to get into a little bit about what we do.
Yeah.
The day before, on the 21st, I got to give props. It's going to be at White House Fruit Farm. When we were struggling, when we were grasping for straws, we went and talked to Debbie at White House, and she told us what she opened up to us and gave us hope.
Yeah.
They're the pre-tour day, and that's the people that are
cool.
People like you, people like me, people like White House.
Yeah.
That are generally good farm folks, but smart business people.
Yeah, they're just giving away, sharing their life story.
Yeah.
Right? Sharing their life story. So that's so cool. Thank you so much, Bill. Anything else you want to know?
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I really want to talk to you about like your dinosaurs and your helicopter drops, your maize balloons. I think we could talk about everything, but maybe we should schedule that for another time,
I want to know about your redneck red. Why does it sell so much?
Seattle. How far is Seattle from you?
Seattle is about 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours.
That dinosaur lives outside of Seattle now.
Really?
You have a chance at getting him. He's not.
What farm?
Another one, but yeah, you could get Megasaurus.
Shit. What farm? What farm has it?
No, it's a promoter. He does monster truck promotions and stuff like that.
Oh shit. How much you sell them for?
Yeah, if I think of it, I'll try and find the link and send it to you.
Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll chat about it soon. So thank you so much, Bill. Talk to you later, man.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother. Yeah, bye.
How do you turn this off?
I don't know. Yeah, I want to make sure I say this thing.
Later, dudes.
See ya.
See ya.